Hi, Heather.
Hi, Dean.
Okay, Heather. So, hypothetically, you just started a 1 year long, brand new engagement as fractional CMO, brand new client, right? Today's day one. Tell me who you are, and then tell me what a fractional CMO is and what one would do in the first 90 days, to sort of kick off that 1 year engagement.
Sure. I'm Heather Lodge. I work with B2B health tech technology startups. That industry's gone from having investors throw money their way to, needing to get their marketing really dialed in so they can attract new investors and to scale. So to help them do that,
Right.
I help them grow their customer base, increase their revenue, and build a solid foundation to continue to grow and scale. I often find when I talk to folks that fractional CMO means a lot of things to a lot of people, but honestly, it's really simple. It's your outsourced head of marketing, your outsourced marketing leader. Think of it in that way. In the simplest way, when to think about it is we are the single person that is accountable for all of your marketing outcomes, and we do that by building, mentoring, and leading the marketing team all marching in the same direction. And for me, my number one goal when I come into any engagement is to remove that marketing workload from a busy startup founder's shoulders so they can really
Right.
focus on running and growing the business, attracting investors, doing the things that they need to do to move the needle. So when I come in, I usually spend about 2 weeks or so getting to know all the key players on the team, the history of the business, auditing the materials, what worked in the past, what are the opportunities where they can grow. And then from there, I just start to draft what I call their die on the hill marketing strategy. That is 90 days out, focusing on really just like one or two campaigns to start, keeping it really simple. 1 to 2 campaigns are going to make the biggest impact for them based on the goals that they have. And then I spend that next 60 days following that executing on that strategy we've put in place. That includes leading the team day to day or helping them hire that team if they have gaps there and need additional tacticians to execute, and just
Right.
making sure we're together every single day on daily stand-ups, weekly calls, whatever that looks like, so that the team's really just whipped into shape, every running like a tight ship, and everybody knows exactly what we're driving towards and what we're doing.
All right. What's the fractional part?
So we're there on just a few hours a week.
Hmm.
But the nice part about that is a lot of full-time CMOs spend a lot of their 40-hour plus work week in meetings and
Yeah.
doing things that sometimes they shouldn't be doing. But when you hire a fractional CMO, they have limited hours for you per week, so we spend that time really laser focused on things that are going to move the needle forward. So there's no wasted budget, there's no wasted time. And I always say, if I'm doing my job right, you shouldn't know, or the outside world shouldn't know that I'm not a full-time CMO in your organization.
Right on. All right. Hey, Mel.
Hey,
Okay. So, same scenario, let's say.
okay.
First day of a 1 year engagement, brand new customer. Who are you? And what do you know? How do you like to kick off brand new engagements?
So I am Melanie Asher, and I'm founder and fractional chief marketing officer with Omical. When I am brought into a client, it is because in their mind, they have tried everything, worked with everyone, and
Mhm.
no one has delivered results. So they're stuck, they're tangled, and they need to be unstuck, untangled in order to unleash their full potential. They usually have a single thing that they're obsessing over. Whatever it is, sometimes it's small and completely irrelevant, but they can't get past it. Other times, they're wasting thousands upon thousands of dollars in advertising to get zero in return.
Right.
Regardless of what their initial pain point is, that's what I start with. That eases the stress, that opens them up to seeing that not every marketing professional or marketing outsource company is bad. and they can see and get results. That's where I start. I ease that initial pressure, and then we go into identifying why they're actually stuck, why they're actually tangled up and unable to achieve results. And much like what Heather had said, if a fractional chief marketing officer is doing their job correctly, I will function as if I am internal, but the outside world will never know I'm actually external.
Okay, no, that's good. Okay, so let's switch a little bit perspective wise. I'm the client's CEO. All right, I probably had to get someone to agree, a board, investors, myself. Right, I had to get someone to agree to put aside enough money to bring in a fractional CMO for a year. Right, I mean it's not an insignificant spend for most of us. So I'm the CEO. I'm looking at this money I've allocated. I brought in the CMO. How am I getting the maximum value? How am I squeezing every penny of value from that 1 year engagement with that money?
That is a great question. And in my experience, there's two different ways to look at it. One is simply by the numbers. And to that, I always say numbers never lie,
Mm-hmm.
but they also don't tell the whole truth. You need to know what the numbers mean and how it's relevant to the actual company goals. So, in working with my clients, I start with what are your company goals? Are you looking to be bought out in 5 years? Are you going for your next series of funding? Are you looking to grow organically? Until I have those answers, and until we have those conversations of what that means and those metrics that we need in order to track that progress, we can't develop an effective marketing strategy that gives you any version of metrics that aren't simply monitoring vanity metrics. So that's where I start, and that's what's going to help you accomplish your goal, because those are the bigger things that you're focusing on.
Okay, Heather, let's switch the question around a tiny bit. How does a company that's put aside the money and brought in a fractional CMO, how do they end up wasting the money? What do they do that they shouldn't have done or keep doing, or what did they not do? And so there's money sort of or value left on the table.
That's a really great question. I think the thing that really ends up wasting a lot of time and money is when the CEO brings on a fractional chief marketing officer and they kind of just view them as any other contract employee.
Mm-hmm.
For the CEO to get the best value from a fractional CMO, they really need to have a tight and strong relationship with that fractional CMO, build off of mutual trust, and to really make sure the fractional CMO has a seat at that top leadership table and they're seen as that true partner. I actually just read, Dean, like a article that McKinsey put out on this exact topic, and it was, if their study found that when there's a really good relationship between the CEO and the CMO, and they're really tightly aligned on what marketing's role is on shaping the growth strategy, there's a really high correlation to the company performance. I think the article stated that CEOs who put marketing like at the top or a core piece, let's say, of their growth strategy are 2 times as likely to see a greater than average annual revenue growth, which is huge. So I think CEOs need to lean in to this partnership mentality, engage the CMO more deeply on things, bring them into key meetings, share sales projections, the
Right.
challenges. If you're going after a new vertical, bring them into that conversation. The sooner the better, that kind of thing. And truly, I think the key thing too is as a CEO, you have to truly at your core believe that marketing can bring results and is a value to the organization. If you have this, you're outwardly hiring a fractional CMO, but have this inward belief that marketing is just fluffy or
Right.
frou-frou and all of that, like you're not going to take that relationship as seriously as maybe you could. So just really truly being that champion for that fractional CMO and having that tight relationship.
Okay, so we'll stick with me being the CEO for a second because I'm fancy. So I'm still the CEO, and I'm looking at something else, right? Which is that I've got a marketing team in place. Obviously don't have marketing leadership. I may or may not even have marketing management, but there's some people in marketing in my company, right? That could be quite junior. Looking at them and having a fractional CMO in their orbit for a year, like how's that marketing team going to be different or better at let's say at the end of 12 months than what they look like today on your day one? Heather.
I think that the biggest benefit that a fractional CMO brings is making sure everyone is on the same page. I can't tell you how many organizations that I've either worked with or worked for, and the CEO is looking at one set of metrics, the marketing team's looking at a different set of metrics, and there's this misalignment between what goals marketing is really accountable to and responsible for driving. So making sure everybody is aligned between leadership, or the CEO and marketing. And then from there, it's the CMO's job to make sure the team is clear on what those metrics are. Also, by the end of the year, there should be improvement in, removing bottlenecks. There's always bottlenecks in every organization that you go to. So making sure that you identify those early on, and as part of the strategy, you're moving forward campaigns and doing those things, and that's all great. But at the end of the day, if you still have bottlenecks, it's going to make it harder for the team to move faster and be more agile and do the things that they need to do. And then finally, it's making sure that the right people are in the right seats within the marketing team, and truly bringing out their strengths. I actually had a founder I was speaking with, and he said, "Well, how do I message this to the marketing team so they don't feel like you're coming in to take their jobs?" And I said, "Well, I'm not there to take their job, for one. For two, it's a reframing. I'm here to be their advocate and make sure that they're in the right spot within the marketing team to do their best work, and they have somebody that can speak their language, that can give them mentorship and what they need to be successful." So it's really a support system and operationalizing things that they may not have operationalized before.
That makes sense. Mel, what do you think? How does the marketing department going to be different at the end of a year with a fractional CMO around compared to the year when there was no fractional CMO around? What's going to change or improve?
This is one of the big reasons why I'm brought in is companies often will hire cheap, whether it be outsource or hire more junior employees to help save on the costs of marketing. And I totally understand that. It makes sense. Spend what you need to spend and don't waste money. All on board with that. The challenge with that is you can have a tendency to hire somebody that is so hyper focused in an area that their metrics, their focus are only in their area and not related to the bigger picture of the company. Right. A fractional CMO is going to come in and say, "You are incredibly valuable to this team. Let's work together so we can see how you can help us accomplish our bigger goals. And we can leverage your skill set to accomplish our goals better and faster." Now, in that, sometimes it's the right team, whether it be external, internal, sometimes it's the right fit, sometimes it's not. Another aspect of this is that sometimes these, especially when companies work with external sources, these external sources own the data or the assets or the IP, and that puts the company at risk. And that is a key area where, I'm sorry, it's not a right fit. If a company doesn't own its own data, if a company doesn't own its own IP, it's putting itself at risk. It's not going to get the funding that it needs, and it's not going to be able to sell for as high of a value as what they would like. I've once had a client tell me that I'm a value enhancer when it comes to selling companies, because I make sure that the company owns its IP to make it more valuable when it comes time to sell.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so let's switch perspectives again then, okay? So your mom comes to you, Mel, and she says, "Hey, My friend's daughter, son, graduated from college and just started as a full time employee at a company. They're the most junior person on the marketing team. And that company just brought in a fractional CMO. I think you told me once that's what you do for a living. And so, because, she's not paying attention, your mom. And she says, "Hey, would you talk to like this young person just starting out in marketing and give them some advice? They're going to have this CMO around for a year. Can you give them some like what advice would you give?"
I've actually been in this situation. It
Oh,
wasn't the mother that brought it
wait,
in.
the one that your mom forgot what you do for a living, or the one where someone junior is?
The one with the junior.
Okay, fair enough.
It was a longtime friend, and they had reached out and they're like, my daughter just graduated
Yeah.
and has a new marketing degree and is just starting out. Can you help and guide? And so, yes, I've actually been in this situation, and the advice that I had given to this young woman was to be open to learning what you don't think you're going to learn. Be willing to try what you don't think you can do. Because when you're brand new, you have what you're taught in typically a formalized education, but reality's different. Just because you know a tactic of how to do something, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily understand why it's being done the way it is. And having that understanding of why, while right now may not be of value, down the road in your career, it's going to make you immensely more valuable to understand that why.
All right. And then, Heather, I want to change the question a tiny bit, as I like to do. So imagine that for whatever weird rip in time or space, there's now two of you. There's you today, and there's another you that just graduated and is the most junior employee at a marketing team. Like, what would you tell Heather from, I'm going to say you started your career 6 years ago, because I'm being polite about everybody. And so, but let's say that, what would you say to young you starting out today, first full time job in marketing?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because I actually just had this discussion with another entrepreneur friend of mine,
If
and
you had said you had just been in that situation, the way I would freak out, the way that Mel
oh,
said she had just
yeah,
been in that situation, I would
no,
lose my mind.
no, not in that situation. But
Okay.
we were talking about what if you could go back in time, what would I tell myself? And honestly, it would be absolutely nothing about a specific marketing tactic at all. It would be um, explaining the importance of networking, yes, but also almost internal marketing yourself, or making sure your manager understands what it is that you're doing um, each day, where you want to be, how you want to grow, and leaning into them as a mentor. Because I think oftentimes, and
Right.
I know I was this way, you get stuck and I'm really great at this thing, and you lean into that thing that you do, and you're missing the whole entire rest of the picture, which is being. Um, being an advocate for yourself, being known in the organization, so that would be something. If I could go back in time, I would start that day one. I would get my head out of the keyboard and I would get out there in the organization and start understanding what other teams are doing. Sit with the sales team, sit on sales calls, do that type of thing. Like truly
Okay.
understand what the business does, how they make money, what their processes look like, and find where you can plug in and bring value to someone.
Okay. Heather, so not trying to be impolite here, not trying to be too blunt. That's a danger whenever I talk. But we're winding down, and I have a question for you, and then I'm going to ask the same question for Mel, and that is this: like, there are easier ways to make a living. Okay, so like, why do this? Why is this fun? What sort of weird satisfaction do you get from this enormously frustrating job?
For me, it's seeing, particularly working with health tech startups, it's seeing their potential and
Yeah.
seeing the impact that they're wanting to make. on our crazy, screwed up healthcare environment that we're in, seeing what they're trying to do and knowing they are almost there and they really just needed someone to come in and help them figure out the marketing components. Every time I talk to a founder or a CEO, execution is never the problem. Everyone's executing
Right.
on something. Execution is never the problem. It's the foundational pieces of that that usually are the problem. And so that is something that I find just a lot of enjoyment in, and being able to take things that to the founder, in the founder's eyes, seem haphazard and chaotic, and I look at it and say, I can take this and make something of it, and then really see the team grow it from there. It's, it's great to kind of have that bird's eye view of things, because you're really able to drive forward the important metrics that sometimes when you're sitting in the tactician seat or a manager level, you don't always get that high level C-suite level access, and you may be driving the wrong things. So
All right. And Mel, like, why? Like, here's my 5-word question. Like, why? Why?
So I have a funny story to kick this one off. After I had graduated from college all those years ago and landed my first job, my brother's response was, "Oh my God, she's going to work for somebody else?"
Mm.
And at the time, I was kind of insulted. I'm like, "What? Does he think I'm not capable of working?" And as I grew and I started to discover who I was, I realized, oh, I get now what he was actually saying.
Yeah.
He saw in me what at that time what I had not yet identified in myself. And I had a mentor who put it really simply and bluntly to me. And she goes, "A true entrepreneur can't work for anybody else." And so I was like, oh, again, I understand it. What gets me excited and why I continue down this path is, for me, there's an excitement about taking a company who feels overwhelmed that they can't make progress in their marketing and in growing their business, and they don't know why. It may take time for me or the team to identify and fix whatever is tangled and stuck within their business, but there's always a path out. There's always a path forward. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and I can get them there.
Okay, so time to wind down. This has been so great. Thank you both. This has been fantastic. Mel, who should be contacting you these days, and how should they do it?
For me, it is CEOs and COOs. Occasionally, it is a chief revenue officer who brings me in, but typically it's the CEOs and the COOs. And they're with B2B, and they've either had Series A, Series B. They're looking to accomplish a goal and have plateaued. So they are a great fit for me.
All right. And they should go to your website on screen?
Yes.
That's the best way?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. And Heather, who should reach out to you these days, and how should they do it? What's your preferred method?
You can reach out to me at thehybridcmo.com. You can also email me, Heather at thehybridcmo.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find online. And I work a lot with founders and CEOs of early stage health tech startups that want to do a couple things. They want to hand off the marketing duties, so because they're doing it all, so they can focus on the rest of their duties, or
Right.
they've raised a round of funding and now they're looking to, oh, we have this influx of money. Now, what do we do with it? How do we scale this? So that's kind of my sweet spot is those early stage health tech companies, helping them make an impact, build that foundation, and figure out how they scale it.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Mel. Thanks, Heather, very much.
you.
This has been great.
Thanks.
And I almost got freaked out in that like relative timeline thing. So that's good. Good job, Heather. I'm not usually like, what did you just say something? So that's well done. Thanks for watching. You're probably watching this in a clip, not a full episode, but full episodes exist on YouTube. You should go find them. And other than that, thank you. This is episode 71. And